Hello students, my name is Khalikova Latofat Uktamovna, responsible to deliver a lesson 11. The topic of this lesson is technical terms of railway engineering. This lesson is devoted for the third course students of technical faculties. Before starting our lesson, try to answer the following question. What is the railway terminology? Railway terminology is a form of technical terminology. The difference between the American term railroad and the international term railway used by the International Union of Railways and English-speaking countries outside the United States is the most significant difference in rail terminology. There are also others due to the parallel development of rail transport systems in different parts of the world. Various global terms are presented here. Where a term has multiple names, this is indicated. The abbreviation UIC refers to standard terms adopted by the International Union of Railways in its official publications and thesaurus. As known as the difference between railroad and railway is that railroad is a permanent road consisting of fixed metal rails to drive trains or similar motorized vehicles on, while railway is a track consisting of parallel rails over which wheeled vehicles may travel. Now I think you understood what is railway terminology. Now it is time to watch a video about railway terminology. With the help of this video, you will learn some rail terms.
Assessed by the Dalek, we're not talking about Doctor Who. Now, if you work in the railway industry already or you're a railway enthusiast, you're probably going to know most of these. But do feel free to correct me or leave any suggestions for future episodes in the series in the comments section below. Okay, just before we jump into the video, I'd like to say a huge thank you to all my new subscribers. My aim is to reach 100 subscribers by the end of the year, so thank you everybody. And lastly, before we get on with the video, we're going to be doing a Q&A, question and answer session with a train driver in the next couple of weeks. So if you've got any questions you'd like to ask a train driver, leave them in the comments section below and look out for that video. Now, part one of this series, we're going to be looking at roads and locations. So, first word is roads. In a railway sense, the road refers to the track, sometimes also called the permanent way. Now, you may hear the term, he's got the road, and what this means is that all the points have been set and the signal's been cleared for the train to depart. The road has been set. Like we said earlier, sometimes the road is referred to as the permanent way, the P-way, and the men in the orange jackets, or women in the orange jackets that work on the track, well, they're referred to as P-way gangers, not to be confused with S&T staff, that's signalling and telecoms, but we'll come to that in the next video when we talk more about signalling jargon. So, talking about the track, that brings us nicely onto our next word, 4 foot. Well, it's not actually 4 foot, it's 4 foot 8.5 inches on British Standard Gauge, but it refers to the space in between the two running rails where you'd find the sleepers. Not a great place to be standing if there's a train thundering towards you. So, if there was a train thundering towards you, where would you stand? Well, try the cess. The cess is the area between the track and the railway boundary fence. Now, the cess is actually made up of two parts, known as on or near the line and on the line side. But that's a bit beyond the scope of this video. And in the cess, you'll often find things like signals, line side signage, and generally quite a lot of scrap lying around. Okay, staying on the subject of track, let's look at the 6 foot. And in true railway fashion, it's not 6 foot, it's as many feet as it needs to be. And the 6 foot refers to the area between two pairs of running lines. So you could have an up line and a down line, we'll talk more about that in a minute, and the space between the two lines is known as the 6 foot. Before we look at up and down, we're going to look at the 10 foot, and yep, in true railway fashion, it's not 10 foot, it's as many feet as it needs to be. And the 10 foot refers to the area in between two pairs of running lines. For example, you could have an up slow and an up fast, a space, and a down slow and a down fast. The space in between the two pairs of running lines is known as the 10 foot. Moving on, as we know, the railway is full of ups and downs, with each line being designated either an up line or a down line. Now, the up line always refers to a line towards a major location. In England, this is normally always London. This makes perfect sense if you're in Brighton. You board a train in Brighton, you head north up to London. But if you're in Manchester, you're heading down south, you still board an up train to London. Confused? Well, if you're in Scotland, nearly all up trains are heading towards Edinburgh, with down trains heading away from Edinburgh. The exception being the East Coast Main Line and West Coast Main Line services, which still use London as their up direction. As well as being designated up and down, lines also normally have another name. For example, you could have the up Tunbridge Loop, the down Chatham Loop, or, just to throw a curveball in, the Chislehurst Reversible. Each of these lines being given a name so it can be identified easily. In busy locations such as London Bridge, sometimes lines are assigned a number or letter, so you could have 1 up, 2 up, 3 down, 4 reversible, and so on and so forth. Following on from up and down, we've got London and country. Now, London and country normally defines what side of a location something is on. For example, the signal is located on the London side of the platform. The junction is located the countryside of the station, and so on and so forth. Although London and country are pretty standard terms, it's not unusual to use other locations. For example, at Hastings, the locations Bexhill End and Orr End are commonly used because London can be reached in either direction, either via Ashford or via Tunbridge or Bexhill. Interestingly enough, all trains arriving at Hastings in Sussex are actually classified as down trains, whereas all trains leaving are classified as up trains. This means that the hourly Brighton to Ashford service, when it arrives at Hastings, it's a down train, and when it leaves Hastings, it's an up train, even though it's the same service. I'm sure there are many other locations where this happens, and if you know of some, leave them in the comments section below. Now, if you're confused by all this, don't worry. We've got a saying on the railway: there's the right way, the wrong way, and the railway.
Okay, dear students, I think with the help of this video you have learned some railway terms. Now it is time to work with you with useful vocabulary. Here are the list of vocabulary which are used on the texts. You should read and learn the meaning of these words. To depend on transport by means of railroads, the safest means of travels. To run much faster than. To develop a speed, the fastest locomotive, the most powerful modern locomotives, the passenger and freight service, the possibilities of diesel traction, the total length of the railway, the traffic carried by a railway to provide passengers with many comforts, the suburban service, to take steps to full automation, to build a large railway network, to work out a project, industrial centers connected by a railway, a main line track, an efficient engine, the construction work carried out in hard conditions. You should learn by heart these words. Last, not least, we come to the end of our lesson. Here are the home tasks for you. Exercise 1 describes the relationship between each of the following words, and exercise 3 choose the proper word and translate the sentence. Thank you for your attention. Goodbye.